morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody.
Good morning.
We are a very wonderfully diverse group here. This is our first attempt to offer live translations in other countries to increase the amount of access to these meetup programs. If you're here in English, I'm going to be trying to speak slowly so they can translate. It's nice to see so many um, faces that I know, and very nice to see new faces. So just with a head up and down for the translators, how is the speed so far? Okay, great. All right, I'm going to start by sharing my screen and we'll begin. But first, if people can put their videos on and we can just give a little wave to each other and look at each other to see the wonderful group that is here today. If you're able to, if some people are not able to put their videos on. Wonderful, nice group. Nice to see everybody. Great. So today's topic is facilitating community and belonging in the classroom. But of course, it's not just in the classroom, because when you're in a school, you're also facilitating community belonging with the teachers and with the parents and with the community. So some of the things I'll be sharing today, you can do with all different ages of children and also adults. So how do you create this kind of container and begin the circle in your classroom, to begin the community in your classroom or in any group? So one way that you can do it is you get a big piece of paper and you draw a circle on it. If you have younger children, you could ask them to color a picture of themselves and place it on that circle so everyone in the class can see we're all part of this. You could start a story about animals or children belonging, being happy. Waldorf has this way that I used to do where you have little figures in a circle and you tell the story with the figures, then allow the kids to draw. Puppet show, a finger play with songs or movements. We know the younger children need to move and sing and see. The older children might share with a guided imagery of feeling happy or belonging, or a story. And you can prompt them with a question, like what makes you feel happy in class, or what helps you feel like you belong. You do a little guided imagery on that, and then invite them what I call drawing from the inside out. And just they could do words or pictures, be very creative, and then put it up with their name, and then put it up. And teachers have all kinds of creative ways of doing that, but it's just the beginning. If you see in the picture here, the top right corner, there are all these hands. In a school I used to work at, they had morning circle was called crew because we're all in the boat rowing together. We can only get to where we go if we all row together. So they used to call that morning circle crew, and they did it with 3-year-olds, through 14-year-olds. Every class did it differently. And this teacher had everyone draw their hands. This was an art teacher in the art class. And then she did a story, and then they decorated the hands, and then they put the hands together in a circle. And it says, we all have a hand in crew or in our class. So this is at the very beginning, maybe a first thing before you get into anything else. The other picture here is more with adults, where there was a circle and the adults said something about what they were hoping to get out of a workshop, and they put the stone in the circle.
Miss Shaw, can you go just a little slower? Renata's asking.
Yes.
Thank you.
And maybe I'll pause a little more. Okay. How come I'm not? Here we go. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what this children's circle or crew might look like. And a lot of you might already do this already. So every morning the kids would either stand, the older kids stood, or the younger kids, because they didn't like to sit on the floor, or younger kids sit in a circle. And I start with saying body calming or stretching. Some people do a little yoga, but I might ask kids to do this. We could all do this now. Put your feet on the ground. Take a few nice deep breaths in and out. In and out. With kids, I have a ball I use in and out. One more in and out. Sometimes I'll ask kids that are a little bit utchy, which I call the little bit active. I might ask them to, can you listen for the quiet? And then they stop and they listen. Try to see if it's quiet. And then I do a short little guided meditation story. And after I do a reading for older kids, and for older kids, you can even ask them to choose a short little poem or reading. I used to have a book they used to pick out of. A little story. I would read a story or tell a story. Sometimes the guided imagery is the story. And then sometimes you can do a little drama or art extension. Today we're just going to do a little breathing, and I'm going to tell a little story, and you can be in a comfortable position just to get a little experience of it. So find a place where you're very comfortable. You can close your eyes or look ahead at a spot. Start with maybe putting your hands on your heart, breathing in and out, feeling your heart. And try to imagine the place where you feel the most calm, the place that's special for you. Might be in your meditation, might be a place in nature, place in the house. And just breathing out, in and out, feeling and remembering that calm place. Now imagine the things that bring you that feeling in your heart of love. Again, could be a person. Maybe they're saying something to you. Could be a flower, the beach, an animal, a friend. What supports you and brings in that feeling in your heart of love as you're breathing in and out. Just give yourself permission to have a moment for that. And kind of take that with you. We don't have a lot of time for that today, but we're going to take a little bit of time just to have that. Okay. And we're not going to have time to do it, but you can see if you open your eyes. This is a heart. I did this exercise in Taiwan. And then people drew what came into for them. And if you do this with kids, then they can post it in their desk, or we could have a love wall where they all put it to remind them of what makes them feel good and what, how they feel love. So I'm just going to come out of the share for just a second and invite people in the chat. If you write in your language in the chat, Krishna Prema can translate for us. But it'd be nice if we had a few people also to just say is something they might want to share about that little experience for you, not for the kids, but for you. What was that like, and maybe something that came up that reminded you of something that makes you feel that love in your heart. Anyone brave enough to unmute themselves?
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Some image which came to me was children smiling and children meditating, and just, yeah, there just felt a lot of love.
Thank you.
I felt warmth, like it suddenly became so warm in the heart, and like just felt calming and peaceful and just warm.
Maybe one more. Yes, go ahead, Didi Anantatapati. Go ahead. You can unmute. You have to unmute though, hon.
I
There
feel
you
that the love of God is like a sunshine bathing my whole existence. It's so beautiful.
Wonderful. Oh, I miss you guys now. It's nice to see you. Krishna Prema, do we have anything in the chat?
Just give me a moment.
Okay.
If you want to keep talking, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Okay. I'm going to go back. So that we can see from just a small experience that it's just a reminder for us. And when I used to do exercises with this with teachers, I called it Teacher Circle. And the teachers would, oh, I only did it once a month. The teachers would say, wow, I had such a good day after doing those little exercises. And then they would also do it with their children. And they said the days would go much nicer.
So just a really quick, we did have one in Portuguese, one of our
Okay.
guests, Talita,
Mhm.
and she wrote, I went to a landscape that brings me peace and calm. I feel good in this moment.
Great. Thank you. So, I'm going to give you some ideas about belonging stories and how you might do them. So here I am, and with very little children, if I wanted to share a story about belonging or including, I would use puppets and do a puppet show with them. And I would actually, this I think is with second graders, but even kindergartners is fine. I would give them the puppets and have them do some of the movements too. A few kids I would give the puppets to. So that's one way to do it in a circle, is act out the story with puppets or students. Also, I'd always have some kind of song or finger play that all the students could do together. And of course, draw pictures of the stories. There was a story I would tell through puppets, and then I would do it the next day again and ask the kids to draw a picture of the story or what would be another another ending to the story or the story, how the story came to them. I even would take one page or line, they were very simple stories, and cut them up and have them each pick one of the two sentences, um, and draw it. And then we'd put it all together on a slideshow. And from I did this all the way up to the older kids. And then when we did it in the older kids, they went down to the kindergarten and preschoolers and they told the story using their pictures. You can make a quilt of the story and put it up. And I'm waiting. And I'll show you some really amazing examples of this. Or make a class book of the story. For the older children, I would read a story about belonging and then invite them to write their own story and illustrate their own stories. And again, we had older children and younger children that they would then go down and tell those stories with the pictures and the writing their stories to the younger children. And I just have this Santosha, which was a story I created for kids who had some difficulty with apparent illness at home. And I'm going to go into how we can use some of these kinds of stories. And again, I just explain what I did. I did it by puppets with the kindergartners. I did puppets and drawing with the older kids, and then the way older kids that were 14, 13, they then gave it made things for the little ones. I was lucky to be in a school that had 3-year-olds through 14-year-olds. But if you have real little ones, it might be interesting to have, if there's a way to get older kids to come in and write their own stories and share them. Okay, let's see if I can, oops. So here's just some examples about stories of belonging. And all I did, honestly, is I went on Amazon and I did a search, or I went to a bookstore and did a search. So these are 3 stories. Pebble, a story about belonging, The Belonging Tree, and You Belong Here. And real little kids, you can read, the 3-year-olds, you can read the stories or tell the story. And the older students, even though they seem like stories for little kids, again, you use that as a way to get them writing. You read the story and then you give a prompt for them to write their own story. Or you read the story and you ask the kids to tell a story if they can't write it. Tell their own story about belonging.
So there are comments online from Reka. Of course, she loves involving older kids with younger. And someone is pointing out, I think it's Reka again, talking about what a great service for the older kids, when you're building community.
Right. Sometimes students at schools that only have younger kids can pair up with an older kids school to do, even a high school that's going to do volunteer work or something in a little school, or an older sibling of a younger sibling in the school. So there's a lot of books out there and stories out there. And if you can't find them, you could make them yourself. You could write your own story. Even if you just tell it, you don't have to write it down and illustrate it. So here's an example of when I told that story, read that, one of those 3 books, the Pebbles book, actually. And then I asked the students, I gave them a square of paper, and I asked them on one side to draw what their family of belonging, and on the other side to draw their school. What's their classroom? And some people did both. You can see on the left, there's mom and dad and me in the house, and then all the classmates are on the bottom. And I call this, after we do the stilling, the movement and the calming and the stilling and the story, and then they went back to their desks and drew the pictures. And then the next day we would put them on a quilt so you could see it. And even where they place it on the quilt gives you some information about how they feel about the other kids in the class and what's missing. There's some squares that are blank. Or there's some, you ask the kids, what do you notice about our quilt? This is the best sentence that you can give. What do you notice? What do you see? What do you notice? And the student might say, oh, I see there's 2 blanks. And so and so and so and so was absent the day we did it. Or students will even remember a student that left the class to move or something. This is one of my favorite squares where the student wrote, I belong everywhere. Didn't spell everywhere right, but I belong everywhere. That really stuck with me. Years later, it's still sticking with me. And here's another, that was one class, and I'll show you another class. Oops. Our community of belonging. And the students can get very intricate with these pictures. You give them the time and the space. And then they stay up. They're paper and they stay up for the year and can refer to them. So I'm going to show you some more examples of these, that how teachers see when the teachers can also take an idea and then they make it theirs. And they start thinking they are creative in their own way. Oops, going the wrong way. So this was, I'm going to give us a chance to catch up a bit. So this was a fifth grade. The whole fifth grade had 75 students in it. There was 3 teachers. And they all decided they were going to do a whole grade paper quilt. Now, if you see the top left corner, it looks like a sun. And what the teachers did is they gave each student a paper that looked, they did a copy of their hand to each student. And each student wrote what were the supports for them in the school, and then they put them all together like a sun. So I'm going to just take a moment, and it's 2 slides I'm going to read. This is one of them, but I'll do it slowly. We asked the student to write or draw 1, 2, or 3 things that made them happy on a square piece of paper. After all the students were completed, we made a "Because I'm Happy" quilt that reminds students as they walk by each day to smile and be happy. The sun on the left corner is made up of all the 5th grade teachers' hands. We want to be their way of light to guide them to their happy place. The fingers on the sun were names of great resources around the school who are always there to talk and motivate them. The quilt was inspired by the song by Happy by Pharrell Williams. So I'm sure the teachers played that song too while they were drawing. Okay. So here's some whole classroom tools and the way different teachers use them. And some people know this from before if they've taken classes with me. But as you can see, people use these in different ways too. They're called feelings thermometers. And each of these little clothespins have a child's name on them. This one up in the left-hand corner is an individual one for a student. They could take it home and put it on their, this was from a parent workshop where they took it home and put it on their refrigerator at home. Also, the bottom left one is that way too. The top one is, and you can do this with the kids. It has, sort of pictures with words. And the bottom one is just pictures. So teachers kind of took this idea and did it the way they wanted to. They felt was best for their students. And you can see the clothespins on the bottom one. And the kids would come in the morning and put how they were feeling. A really good indicator for the teacher, because a kid might come and look fine, but once they put how they felt, maybe they weren't, and it would give the teacher sort of indication that they might want to have a little conversation and find out what's going on. Also, when kids have a place to put their feelings and to without sometimes they're less likely to express them if it's a dysregulated feeling. It's a place to put it. I had a teacher that had a student that was on the autism spectrum, and she said by the second or third month the kids weren't really using that chart too much anymore. They were fine. But this child used that chart every day from the first day of school to the last day of school. And she said it was very helpful to him personally. So I'm going to show a little video here. This is something called the spider web. And what you do is, and I think some people know this one already, is that you take a ball of yarn and you say, I'm connected to you by, and you pass the yarn to them. And then they hold the ball, and then they do a little bit more yarn and they give it to someone else and say, I'm connected to you by, your happy face, I'm happy, or because we're good friends. And you go all the way around until everyone's connected. So I did this with a group of adults, but you can do it with kids, and it happened to be recorded. So I'm going to play it so you can just kind of see the fun you can have with it too. We see balance, up, and then to the right, left. Yeah, there we go. Okay. What if we go up a little bit? Woo! I like that. And let's go down. Yeah. And then come up again. Yeah. So we are all linked together. And everyone is part of us. 我们每一个人都彼此心心相连，然后而且重点是我们都是这个资源网里面。I'm not going to play the rest of it, but I'm just going to say that once you have everyone doing that, you can have some fun with it, and they can actually visually see how they're connected together. Balance. All right. I think I missed a slide. Let me just, yes, I did. So here's a few other things. One is a classroom mobile that you have up above in the classroom. And then everybody has their picture on it. And I've even seen teachers, there's a problem in the classroom and they slide that and it makes the mobile kind of go off balance. And they talk about how we want, it's important for us all to be in balance so the class can be in balance. And this is a friendship and inspiration chain where you draw a picture or something that makes you feel good or is friendly, and then you open it up like a present every day. It's called friendship and inspiration chains. We see balance. I'm looking at the time. Wow. I'm going to skip over a couple of these because I really want to get to the breakout groups. And I don't want to start talking really fast. But this is something similar to a quilt, but you use puzzle pieces. Again, once it's put out, you say, what did you notice? And that's the important part for people to notice. This color is like this color and stuff like that. And oh, it looks like we're moving forward together. Some of us are supporting the forward movement, things like that. So just a minute about, I'm going to do a whole meetup about how to include children who feel excluded. But I'm just going to do a few points. One is letting students participate from a distance. I saw a teacher very skillfully do this with a child who would not come into the circle, who wanted to disrupt, but he was okay in his seat about 6 or 7 feet away from the circle, and he would participate from there. And the teacher allowed that, so the child was able to be included, but in their own way. If a student has a particular issue, like I was talking about that student that had autism, on the autism spectrum, reading a story about students like that. I had a student that had cystic fibrosis, and I had a book about kids with cystic fibrosis, and the teacher read to the class. But they read not just that one book, but I had a whole series of those books for different things, that challenges that children have. So you weren't sticking out that child, but there's a series of books about that, and kids, students could recognize that, oh, there are different challenges. And I'm going to give an example about supporting a discussion about classroom community and how a teacher handled this. So the teacher noticed that some of the children were being mean to each other and not being kind to each other. So she read the Ugly Duckling story, which is a story about a duck, the other ducks are making fun that this duck is ugly, but the duck is really a swan. It's not a duck. And then the duck becomes a beautiful swan at the end of the story. She read this story, and she asked the children to place their hands on their hearts and describe how it made them feel. And they were experiencing feelings of sadness and guilt and frustration. So then she asked how they could make someone feel better about themselves. And then they had these small squares with words of encouragement, and you can see it's quite an intricate quilt. This is again a paper quilt. They feel happy and good about themselves. And they created this, polite and kind quilt together. So this is a way of getting at an issue by not, pointing this child or that child, but having the class as a community through a story. Come to some of that themselves. I'm going to skip this one because I want us to have time in the breakout groups. And so we're going to go into the breakout group for 15 minutes.
Do you want to do 15? Because we're already at 3:40.
We're going to do 12 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
We had a little bit of time in the beginning where we had to do the translation stuff. We didn't start quite at 9. So here are the 3 questions. What helps you to feel like you belong in a group? What helps you to feel like you belong in a group? And what helps you if you feel excluded? What helps children feel they belong in a group, and what helps them when they feel excluded? And do you have any books or stories or ideas? I think we're just going to do the first 2. When we come back, we can put, if you have any ideas about books or stories and stuff, you can put it in the chat, and we're going to share it with everybody. But just those about you, what helps you to feel like you belong in a group, and what helps you if you feel excluded, and what you feel maybe helps for children. So we're all back. We all made it back, just about. So believe it or not, we're just about out of time, but we are going to do a little bit of sharing. I don't know about everyone else's group, but mine group was wonderful. Maybe just have a few words. If I had planned that the people would come out of the breakout groups in the languages and share, but maybe they can share in the chat. Or maybe we'll have someone come out, that the translators come out and share a little bit. Um, let's just have just a few sentences from as many groups as we can for 5 or 6 minutes. Maybe someone from my group, can they share that I was in?
I'll share on behalf of our
Okay,
group, if that's
great.
okay. Yeah, we spoke about uh different ways of being invited in, acknowledging we like to be acknowledged with a smile, or an invitation, and just being able to observe body language and potentially give people the space to be able to gather courage. So those are some of the ways that we liked to participate and feel like we were included. And then in terms of being able to extend that to the classroom, again, just inviting the students in, acknowledging people's presence with a smile and an invitation, and then also just making space for those who are quieter and who need an invitation. Yeah, just making sure that those who are happy to share give others the space to feel included, and if that means everybody just keeping quiet for a little bit, then ensuring that that happens.
Okay, thank you. From another one of the English groups, maybe the group that MJ was in or Reika was in.
Vishala, very quickly, we had one comment in the chat that from Rashmis that said, I was in a group with Portuguese speakers and it was already a practice of inclusion.
Ah, great. That's wonderful. Well, let's then, okay. We'll hear about that when Renata talks too. So thank you. Someone else from one of the English groups, speaking groups for now. Yes, go ahead.
I can share. We had a lively group. It really came up the effectiveness of having visuals, the quilts, the feelings chart, job charts, whatever, things that you can relate to and be reminded of and go up and point to, that you can put your finger on and really remember what that visual reminder was all about. We thought that was very special and that children felt very included, especially visual learners or children on the autistic spectrum.
Okay, great. Somebody else from another group.
Hello, I just come to think about something now that really helps in to feel included in groups, and that's it depends on the group. If there are people you don't really know, then I was just thinking about icebreakers, games and movement together. That is something that really opens me up and opens up everyone actually in the group. So just one.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody else from maybe a group we haven't heard from yet.
I can go.
Great, thank you.
We had talked a little bit about vulnerability and about just remembering that probably other people are also maybe feeling uncomfortable or awkward in a social situation, and to maybe do what we wish, what we would like other people to do. We kind of talked about, a lot of times, we're getting the vibe from other people that is, similar to our own, and to just, even if it's difficult, to kind of push through the difficulty. It's a nice tantric challenge, and be the one that reaches out, that starts the conversation. Just had so many times that people will say, oh yes, I was feeling so awkward too. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know where to sit with. So just using it as an opportunity to challenge ourselves, to push through something difficult, and remember that probably other people are feeling similar when it feels awkward, uncomfortable.
Great, thank you. Yes, this vulnerability and idea of safety came up. Yes, absolutely. So maybe we're so short on time. I think I'd like to make sure we also include maybe we can have Maha come out of the Spanish translation, maybe share something that happened in that group.
Maha, you should be able to talk now. Are
She
you
can't.
no, she should be. Oh,
Am I?
there you
Okay,
go. There you go.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so in my group, we talked a lot about the body language and how we can keep each other feeling comfortable coming into a group by being kind, by, you know, how language is also a way to be connected with someone. And then also changing the norms that we have in our space. Like sometimes people want to sit in very strict rows, but then we change into a circle, and that can make people feel more comfortable, eye contact and things like that. And then there was a quote here that one of the people in the group said. She said she really liked the course and she likes this circle for Anandamarga, just for adults and kids that are recently coming to Anandamarga, and it's a really nice something. It's really beautiful for them. It's a really good project.
Okay, thank you so much. Can she pop back in or no?
Should be
Yes.
back in now.
Okay, so let's maybe have Lalita come out next. Lalita, I think you can talk.
Lolita, you should be able to talk.
Yeah. Okay. So in my group, we mainly discuss about what makes us feel belonging or separated in a group. So we come with the agreement that, you know, like the similarity that the people share among themselves can help them, you know, have a feeling of belonging to that group. Because I also give myself an example of, like, you know, whenever I have a parent meeting or parent gathering in the Waldorf Steiner school where my son goes to, I don't feel I don't have that feeling of belonging, and I'm often ask myself why. And, you know, like I also give raise up this example, and we discuss, and, you know, like and and we discuss the reasons, and, you know, like so this is the feeling from me as an adult. So how about the children? The children, do they feel this way, or, you know, like how the children they can, you know, like approach in a different way from the adult, right? And also Sister Tabasi also mentioned that, you know, like they have a their genuine way to merge into the group, and, you know, how the teacher can inspire a child or a student to you know, like we talk also off the topic a little bit, but like how to how the child tackle or like merge in the group in their own way, but also like the teacher inspire him or her to find his own way to pursue the things of himself or herself. So, you know, like generally this is the thing that we discuss in our group. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And there's nothing off topic in a group that I have as a breakout group, Lolita. You should know that. It's what was supposed to happen.
Thank you.
Okay. So maybe Renata, and then we have to close. Renata, you should be able to talk.
It is my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
There were people, the topics we discussed most was how important it is to have a support group, you know, and to make people feel they belong, you know, how important that is. And they also said that it always starts with adults. There were teachers in the group, Anandamarga teachers in the group, and they said that it all starts with adults and it goes on to children. And it is important for children to feel that they have this space to talk and to be heard. and there is this respect for what they say, and and to have this room to be heard as well. And one person said that this is really important, but she works with older children, but she also worries about how to make children not so dependent on approval, to make them more mature and independent emotionally at the same time. And she even gave an example as one child had drawn something and the other one didn't like and said when I hadn't said, and then she was feeling kind of sad. And then she says she questions how it is, how we can emphasize that, that at the same time that we feel we belong, we need to grow independently emotionally.
Yes.
So it's pretty much what we talked about.
That's an excellent point, and a
So,
great idea for a future meetup.
okay, I'll tell them then.
An excellent idea how to help kids belong, and then it's developmental also, and then how to help kids become independent when they're older and adolescents and stuff, and that whole topic for
Some
sure.
the other teachers said that in class they usually do positive affirmations, so they work on that too.
Right. Okay, so thank you so much. Anybody else that I missed that was in a group that was an English speaking group that no one from that group shared?
Okay, I can quickly say one more thing,
Yes.
that we had a few of us to kind of come, we felt the same, that a lot of times this feeling actually comes from us, not from the group. It depends on our mood, feeling of insecurity on our mind. And it helps us to become aware of it, to come down, go deep inside and just wait a little bit or observe. And usually somebody from the group will approach, or something will happen, or you will connect with the group. So it's also important to be aware of that. It's us who are making us disconnected from the group. It's not always the group that is actually excluding us.
Exactly. So it can be both. And that's why also I started with the teacher or the adults, how they feel about belonging and exclusion, because then that affects how you manage that in the classroom and how you catalyze that in the classroom. So
Fishala,
yes.
yeah, actually, what we do in the Brazilian side, like since a new humanistic education focuses on the teachers, so we really invest a lot on the teachers, because there is a saying that says you cannot teach what you are not, and every human being has their own burden, I think, of many things that have to be resolved. The emotional side, all the psychic side, the traumas of their personal life, So what we do most in our training is really focus on that, not only the technical side, but also the emotional and the self-development, really growing as a human being. I really focus on that in our training, to work on the human being as a teacher.
And that's what, and I think that that feeds perfectly from the last comment about maybe some of the exclusion is how I'm feeling inside. Let me see how I am first.
Yes, I am. It's just to think of you. Yeah, because since humanist education, the domain, it's fantastic theory, but the vehicle that transmit that knowledge to the children are the teachers. So that vehicle really has to be polished. Really have to work on that. That's really very, very. I see it in that, and that's what I do in our training.
Yes. Well, you are speaking like to the person who that's what I that's my whole focus. That's it.
Sorry.
I can't agree with you more than that, but that's okay. All right, we're really kind of out of time now. If you have other comments, please put them in the chat. We'll save the chats. We will send out this recording to everybody. And also I'll have a little resource, some resources that I'll attach to it. I just want to let everyone know that we said this is monthly. It is kind of, but next month we're not going to because the person that markets and organizes it is having a baby. So we're going to, and teachers are very busy in September. So we're going to, the next one will be in October. And the theory will be about sense thinking and how that relates to language and reading comprehension. And you'll get some more information about that. Thank you for making this such a success. All the interpreters, can we do this for them? Yay! And nothing would happen without Krishna Prema, so yay! And our team. And if we can put our videos off, people that know me know I do this a lot. I mean, if we could put our videos on, if everyone can put their video on, and let's just all kind of virtually give a little hand holding here to each other. And thank you, everyone. I will be in the after cafe for a few minutes if anyone has some specific questions, but thank you for staying a little bit after. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The after cafe is here.